Here we go, episode 3, Community Conversations podcast, live recording. Me and my co-host Abbie here. How are you, Abbie?
Hey, I'm doing good, thank you. It's beautiful sunshine. I've just stepped inside to come and do this, so my pleasure.
Yeah, good to see. We are joined by Jason Johnson again. Jason was with us last month, so you can introduce yourself if you would like to, good Jason, but you'll have heard his voice if you listen to episode 2. And today, I mean, people familiar with the Always Better Than Yesterday community will know Nathan Todd. They'll know this wonderful human being. But let's just say people are coming across the Community Conversations podcast the first time. Nathan Todd, please introduce yourself, brother.
Hey, my name is Nathan. I'm just a dude who was born 4 pounds, 10 ounces, 8 weeks premature, diagnosed with cerebral palsy at the age of 2, eradicating loneliness one conversation at a time.
Hey, tell you what, the legacy of Clubhouse is like lived out right there. The ability to introduce yourself now is just dialed in.
On point, isn't it? It's on point.
I think I could say that introduction now. It's like, yeah. Love that, man. Love that. Good to see you. So we were just having a bit of conversation earlier around how this is episode 3 and how it's it's starting to understand about that actually community isn't necessarily something we do, but it's almost an expression of who we are. You know, we were just talking before we push record around how this just becomes an embodiment of people who say they're all about community. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, I'll just trail back and sort of say again what I was sort of thinking about, in that, you know, it really becomes an extension of who you are. I think, you know, you put your all into your work, into your home life, into your family. And I think just as much of you needs to come into your community as well, because I just think all of those skills and knowledge that we gather and we use on a day-to-day basis, there's just so many other people beyond like our 4 walls of home or work that are going to benefit from you. So why would we not want to share it? Why would we not want to gather more people to benefit?
Yeah, and in terms of this conversation, Nathan and Jason, feel free, let's keep it open conversation. Don't feel the need that it's got to go through myself and Abbie. So if there's anything you'd like to kind of respond to, Abbie, then feel free to say.
Yeah, I think that one of the problems, though, is we've become a society that's based on numbers and metrics. And so we can say we're chasing community, wanting to create community, but how many people, like you use the word embody it, how many people are just looking to hit the numbers and forgetting about the people behind the numbers? I think that happens more than we realize now. And I was in a call earlier this week when they were talking about how the loneliest generation is the younger generation. And I think what's happening is we're finding all our validation in the numbers and in the likes and in those things. And we're missing out on creating connection through what I think you guys are leading to with how you would define community.
Yeah, I find that really, really tricky. And it was a thought that I had earlier today, particularly about this community. And obviously having you guys here helps me highlight that somewhat, in the fact that obviously Ryan and myself and a few others are obviously very local to one another geographically. We are a global community, which is like incredible. I love it. But I personally, and I'm sure others do too, really relish in that in-person contact and side of community, and how much that can kind of like elevate how we feel, how we respond, how we work, and so on. And I had the thought of, well, how do we go about replicating that, if at all possible? You know, like for you guys who are over in America, or for our friends that are over in Australia, or for our friends that are over in Europe, you know, like how can we ensure that what we're creating in person here could apply to anyone anywhere in the world, you know, and I'm open to any suggestions. I haven't got sort of beyond the thought of the question, but it really occurred to me that, you know, and Nathan, you being the loneliness coach, you know, I didn't want to start isolating anybody within the community by not being able to offer them what is offered to everybody else. So yes, that's where my mind's been spinning today, as to sort of ways in which we can ensure everyone is feeling included. So yeah, any thoughts or questions you have on that, I'd be really keen to hear.
Yeah, I think community is it's when you have this common denominator that the human connection, right? Like people are brought together for some core value, some common denominator, some shared value that brings it's a natural instinct for humans to want to connect and be bound with one another. And I think that that's like at the foundation of community. And then to Nathan's point, that we've gotten so far away from that now the likes or the hearts or whatever is the metrics is what causes people to feel like they're connected, when there's a reason somebody hit a like or a heart, and maybe it's that shared value. So there just needs to be more conversation about those common denominators. Like, what is it that brings people together? And it's going to be different for different communities, right?
Yeah, I find it really interesting, because if you look at like the chemical thing that's happening, like the likes and the stuff, that's dopamine, right? That's like, oh, that's addiction. That's like sugar for breakfast, right? So, but if you look at what happens to addicts in society, they become isolated. They disconnect from those around them. And I think, you know, that's ultimately what will happen with the addiction to likes and hearts and all that sort of stuff. And I think the conversations that we have, particularly on a Thursday night or even in the one-to-ones, like the experience of that being held in a loving space is a whole different type of chemistry, you know, that whether that's oxytocin, serotonin. I'm not really a neurobiologist, but I know that it's not addictive. I know that those spaces and places are not addictive, because I certainly don't want to relive those conversations, because, you know, they're heavy, they're the life's ups and downs, but it is deeply bonding, deeply connect, and you're with people. Like, I feel purposeful. People feel held. Like, stuff happens and we leave there knowing that something happened. Like, I don't think anyone's rushing to go back to it. It's not like I need more of that. Like, give me some more love hearts. But it's a deep held feeling. And I take your point, Abbie, and I think I was no surprise your love language is wanting big hugs and stuff. But
yeah.
But I've definitely been the beneficiary of the friendship of these two human beings, and in the energy exchange, even just hearing their voice notes, even just, you know, the way that Nathan would check in, or the interactions I'll have with you, Jason, it feels real. Like, you know, I have absolutely no doubt I'm on the other end to another human being.
Oh yeah, I mean, I get that totally. I totally get that, but I suppose my concern, maybe it was because I was just thinking from my own point of view, you know, with wanting to actually physically be in a room and touch a person, you know, give a hug or whatever. But yeah, I suppose, yeah, that then brings us on to that conversation again of like energy and energy exchange. And then I suppose my question would be, how do we ensure that we keep up that exchange and that it works for everybody? Because I suppose everybody reads energy differently. But then again, perhaps that comes back to Jason's point of, as long as it's coming from those same shared values and ideas, then everyone is going to get the right message, I guess. I just feel like I'm playing out stuff in my own head today. But
if you want proof of energy in these conversations, me seeing the name Chris Saunders join my Zoom room is proof that energy can transfer digitally. Like, I cannot wait to see her. But hopefully she can turn her camera on.
Yeah.
But the very fact that I've got Chris Saunders in my Zoom room is it gives me real energy. It's a real thing.
Yeah. Oh, she's trying.
She's trying.
And here's what I would say to what you were just speaking into, Abbie. I would say that you have to also let go of some of this feeling like it's your responsibility. Like Ryan just talked about holding space. I think that's what the community, as far as a physical, like the Facebook group, right? That's what the community is about. It's a place to hold the space for these connections and exchanges of energy to happen.
Yeah, the container. And I think I'll come to you in a sec, Chris. I'll introduce you. Just going to package this thought up and I'll come back to you. But I think one of the things you said, Abbie, is how do we ensure it for everyone? And I think the pre-qualifier to everyone is first the assumption that they want to be there. Okay. And I think because we've labeled it intentionally, we are always better than yesterday. Hopefully those that go, I have no interest in this, don't join. So the presupposition is, okay, well, I want to be part of this. I want to be. And I think that's the most important thing with most communities is it's like, I think I've said before, it's like the Batman signal. It's like we send out the signal that this is the free, this is what we're all about. If you want some, come get some. and if this signal is not your signal, then cool, like no hardship. But like this is what we're putting out. If you like that sort of stuff, come spend time with.
Cool. Yeah.
Chris Saunders, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So good to see you.
Oh my gosh. I was like scrolling through social media this morning and I was like, something's live and I have a moment. I'm going to try. So I was literally trying for like 10 minutes. Amazing. And I finally got on.
Well, we're really, really grateful. It's now put the numbers 3-2 in terms of the Americans to the Brits. But hey, like, just shows that you're the committed folk, right? You're like, you're a proper, you're all about the heart. No. Do you mind just giving us a quick 30-second introduction for those people that are going to be catching up on the podcast? In obviously they'd have listened to your interview session, which was incredible, but let's just assume that they haven't.
Yeah, Chris Saunders. I don't even know what my identity is right this minute because I've got so many hats that I'm wearing, but I'm doing some emergency managing, some operations management, volunteering, and of course I still have my coaching practice that I'm doing on the side when I have time.
Love that. You are a servant leader, my friend. I hope you're still taking time for yourself.
I might need some help with that one.
When are you getting out on the paddleboard next?
When it stops raining. It has rained every day for the last 28 days here. Every day.
Thank you for your sunshine. We've been enjoying the sunshine for the last 28 days.
Did we flip-flop?
Yeah, we might have borrowed it. Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's all good. I'm going to get out soon. Lots of people and we all want to go out, but it's been a little chilly and a little wet and rainy.
Oh dear.
So, yeah.
Sounds like England. Nathan, you said something earlier about like those, I can't remember the specific words you said, but it made me think about how many people get into starting community because it's almost like an extension of their business. It's almost like if I have a business, I have to do a community, which almost becomes then a strategy rather than a genuine desire to be, because we've been in I think October 2017 was when We Always Bet Yesterday formed. So 6 years, right? Labor of love. I'm sure there's been a few times where I've just thought this, like, delete group. It's the labor of love, right? And I think, like, what's your view, Nathan, and anybody that's on the call is what do you think about when community is part of a strategy?
Yeah, I think that hit home for me, and all I'll say is the thing that has helped me most recently when it comes to community is I actually took intentional time to ground every day, and I would just, before I would do the practice, I would ask one question, and the question that I asked on the day that this stuff was coming up was, what have you created me to bring to the world? And, funny enough, the thing that I was being shown was talking about men's issues for men with disabilities, right? And so that's a complete shift. But what that took was me just pausing and like feeling into what was coming up for me and just saying, okay, that's what came up. That's what we're going to get into. And I think if it is a strategy, you also have to realize it is okay to hit the delete button if it's not really authentic to you and it's not really something that you're able to invest in. Hit the delete button. The community will come to you when it's supposed to come to you.
I've just written down 3 words: community, not customers. And I think a group will feel like whether they're a funnel for your customers or whether there's a genuine community.
I want to read you one thing that I got when I started the talking about men's issues for men with disabilities. Somebody sent me this message. They said, hey, I want to be part of this interview series. And they said, hey, I'm proud of you for bringing up taboo topics. You inspire me to do the same. And I think that's what community is about. You find the thing that you are able to and want to courageously talk about, and you see who shows up.
So therefore, do you think that then community is anything we have to convince people to be part of, or that they're just, because it's then there's a community for everybody, you just have to be able to find it. And that just requires language, I guess, and storytelling and being able to articulate, I guess, what you're all about, the types of people that you'd like to surround yourself with.
Yeah, and again, I'm just thinking it's just that opportunity again, isn't it, to 100% show up as yourself. And again, by doing that, again, that's going to attract the right people there as well, isn't
it? The struggle and the challenge. Is it a struggle? I don't know. So this community was completely active love, 3 years. There was no kind of payment, no coaching services to offer anybody. The minute it became a full-time job, and then it was like, well, I need to pay my mortgage now. The thing I always wrestle with, the thing I was always very clear on, is that always better than yesterday, the community would stay free. People were like, you need to monetize it. And I'm like, not a chance. Started free, it would always remain free. So I guess for me, the mentality I had to go through was, how do I upserve? Not upsell. Like, how do I sell anything? How do I upserve? So I don't know whether this is the right thing or not, but I went with a kind of heart set that, okay, let's just say 10% of people who just want more. My job is to find them and offer and serve them. And you know, for me, they're just vocalizing that. That's one of the kind of things that, as a community leader, trying to navigate this thing, both running a business and still have that community value. It's just like, that's been one of the things I've had to kind of navigate.
Yeah, I think community it's like a culture, right? It's either accidental or it's intentional. And you know, Ryan, you used the word strategy, and I guess that would be intentional. And if you show up as your whole self, as the badge that you wear on your chest, the leader that you are, those people will just find you. And then that becomes your community, and it's intentional with values, right?
Jason, you now serve Colorado, is that correct?
Yeah, I'll be there next week.
Well, if you're heading near Boulder, Colorado, I suggest you be intentional in seeking out Chris Saunders for a coffee.
That would be awesome.
I'll be there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
In Boulder, Colorado?
No, in Denver, which is, I fly into Denver. I'll be serving our folks there in Denver. But yeah, fantastic.
I've got a huge dose of like love, but also like jealousy, like literal jealousy.
We'll have to have a cup of coffee.
I would love that so very much. That would be awesome. I was just thinking about the conversation, just listening, and I miss this because I have been so distracted with other things in life. And, you know, thinking about back when I did do a lot of community work and for my business and even outside of my business, it's like sometimes for me, it was hard to create and cultivate that safe space for people because I just didn't have the energy myself. And that was a disservice for people. So I kind of just stopped.
I'm going to challenge you a little bit. So for anybody that listened to Chris Saunders on my podcast will know that she wasn't distracted. She was serving her heart out, crisis after crisis after crisis, in major crisis zone. And then a pandemic came along. There's like, she dealt with like 2 or 3 crises anyway of magnitude, like big stuff.
Yeah.
And so you weren't distracted, my friend. You were doing what you were born to do, which was to serve your heart out. But you know, you just look after yourself. And
yeah, so that was one piece that unfortunately I couldn't show up for just because I didn't have the energy. And so hopefully we don't have any more disasters in Colorado. I'm knocking on wood because not a year goes by that it doesn't happen.
When I was in the police, we were never allowed to use the word quiet because it would almost jinx stuff. So I'm glad you just knocked on the table because like, you know, don't want to jinx this stuff, right?
No. Love the conversation.
Yeah, amazing.
Can I just say, even though all the things that I've talked about already today, I've just seen like our community in action just right there. The fact that Jason is going to Colorado and he can meet Chris for a coffee, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And there are many of those little micro moments happening, aren't there? So, and that collectively is quite something special.
Yeah, because if the universe is listening, that micro moment will have just dropped Jonathan Darling straight into this, because everybody knows, like, everyone's mind went straight to him. So it really is like this connection between humans. And I think, you know, I put out a post on LinkedIn this week, which is about a greenhouse, which is this environment in which people grow. And I think that's it. It's that simple, isn't it? You know, you and I, Abbie, leading in this community is to create the container. And I think many community leaders, driven by this desire to be an authority, I think one of the greatest gifts I gave myself in starting this community was I put myself right amongst the learners. Like, there was like Ryan Hartley into the expert. Like, Ryan Hartley is not like, I'm amongst it. I'm learning. And that's the podcast. I get to learn from people. That's probably the greatest gift I've given myself as a community leader, is to put myself amongst it rather than feeling like I need to be the one that's like marching with all the wisdom, because some days I ain't got wisdom. Do you know what I mean? I need to draw upon somebody else's, which is a wonderful. I think nature is collaborative. You know, the honey, the bee and the flower, it's come together. They both benefit from that reciprocal. Chris says, you know, relationships are 100-100. And I love the fact that I can learn from all 4 of you on here. And I get to surround you with the other cubes that you get to see as well, and the very other people that are in the background that partake every now and again.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that whole Jonathan Darling, that's how Jonathan and I met. I was watching a Facebook live, and I can't even remember everyone's name, and he's like, well, I'm going to Colorado tomorrow and I'm going to happen to be in Longmont. And I was like, this was literally a mile from my house. And I was like, what?
Yeah, that's absolutely obscene, isn't it? It is so good. Yeah, where do you want to take the conversation, Abbie, for the final 5 minutes?
I would like to know. So, Chris, especially with the line of work that you do, obviously a lot of it you're working in crises. How do you ensure that the community still comes together when, obviously, I imagine their hearts and minds are in a million places? How do you bring that together so that everybody is working together?
Well, thank goodness it's not my job 100% to do that, because I couldn't do that. But in the time of crisis, you know, we have so many plans and programs in place that put wraparound services for our community. If something were to happen, we establish those relationships and understanding well before a disaster happens. So we know each other, we know faces, we know what their capabilities are, we know when they can show up and how they can show up, and we practice that. And so when the real deal happens, we just do what we do, and we offer what we can offer, anything from a warm meal to maybe a few nights sleep, depending on the disaster and the emergency. But it is really creating those places like a disaster assistance
Yeah,
center
I
or
was gonna say,
something
do
like
you
that.
find that there's one or two things that will definitely ensure that people will come together and help one another in that situation?
Yeah, information. A lot of times people are seeking information. A lot of times in those situations, information is far to find because they just don't know what's happening, especially like say like a wildfire, you don't know. And so that uncertainty just drives people to the brink of crazy sometimes. And so creating a space where you can get as much information as quickly as you can to them is really important. So offering a space, a physical space for people to come is really important for them to gather.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
Nathan Todd, what question have you got on your heart and your mind that you think we should journey around? I always put you on a spot, sorry, but it's a gift and a curse being so good at asking questions, Nathan.
Yeah. So what's coming up for me right now is for all the community leaders within this community. Who do you have to become to create the space for the community you envision? And when can you pause to find out who that person is?
That's a good one. It's always a good question. Thank you, Nathan. It's always a good one. For me, initially, I would go to the fact that I think just in quiet times when I'm sort of often with my children is when, and physical contact with my children is often when my mind goes to, right, okay, well, who am I in this moment? They're the ones that give me oddly, children don't give you a lot of space and time, but they often in those moments give me space and time to think, okay, who am I being now? Who is this going to benefit? And I suppose the way that I behave with them is probably I extend that into my community work as well. Yeah, so they're definitely a catalyst for allowing me the opportunity to think about who I need to be, for sure. And again, I think that brings me back around to what I was saying earlier, that a lot of our community work, our values, our behaviours within community work probably just does stem from our four walls and what we do day in, day out. So, but I'm going to think about the other part a little bit more because I don't know how I'd label that yet. I think it's a being, isn't it? I just show up and I just smile at you and I'll just hug you and I'll just probably talk at you and it'll either work or it won't.
But sometimes it's knowing what's in your hand, right? If you're willing to serve the one in front, I guess it's like Moses when he was like, me, you want me to go and do that? It's knowing like what's in your hand. It's knowing like who it is that you love to serve. It's knowing how you're going to serve them, not questioning whether that's like good enough or anything. It's just like, it's just all heart, no brain. Like I'm just going to love you the way that I know I love people.
I think an example I think I have of that is when I go to the gym and I just try and smile at everyone. Because a lot of people in there are very, very serious. And if I can get a smile back or some sort of acknowledgement or something like that, or if they look like they're having a slightly tough time with things, I think if I just smile, hopefully it will just make it a little bit better, you know. And it's
Abbie, you can't do that in 2023 at the gym. Come on.
Where's Joey Swole?
I properly interrupted someone today as well to ask a question. I was curious, so I asked a question and he was very obliging. But
so funny. I was just thinking about your question when you were saying it, Nathan, and I wasn't sure I was going to answer this, but I've been getting more involved in my local church community, which 4 years in still makes me laugh. But I hosted a Sunday service the other day, and I've been co-leading a men's group, which was never part of my strategy. It was never part of my plan. It was always one that's been, hey, we do this, and I'm like, oh, following the call. And someone came up to me mid-service or at the end of a service and just said the words, God sees the way that you've looked after your family. Now he's trusting you with his church family. I was like, oh shit. Like, so it's really interesting. It's really, that kind of really spoke to me in terms of like who you're becoming, like, and who you are. And I see it through that lens. It's like, wow, like really trying to lead my family in those values, in those ways. And then someone else is like, yeah, you're seen for the way that you've done that. And you're given more access to go do that with others, which is, well, it's quite interesting. Any final thoughts, any final comments from yourself, Jason, Chris, before we bid farewell?
Yeah, I think when, thinking about Nathan's question and Abbie's response, your response, and listening to Chris talk about, coming together as a team to accomplish and handle these tragedies, community, I mean, it's going to be different everywhere you go. But when you start to peel back the layers, and everybody plays a different part. I always like to relate things to things that are functional, like car engines, right? Like you've got spark plugs, you've got a air filter and your carburetor, and all these things are happening, and everybody shows up how they can and make it work. And we're graced by the wonderful Jonathan Darling.
No timing.
Oh my God.
Here he is.
We're burning.
Is the man, JD. Good to see you, brother.
In the airport, like always.
In the airport, like always.
We're having a conversation about community, and Abbie dropped the words micro moment, and obviously everybody's thoughts went to JD. So it's like, oh, it'd just be amazing if Jonathan just dropped into the call.
Ta-da!
Well, here you go.
Good to see you, mate. Where are you traveling to?
Just got back home. Took the red eye back from Los Angeles yesterday, I guess last night, and I was out leading some workshops in Palm Springs.
Oh, amazing. We're about to wrap up, so I'd love to know your thoughts, just put you on the spot, around community. With the first thing that comes to your mind around building one, creating one, being part of one.
Well, we were created for it. If you want to take the spiritual aspect out of it and just look at it from the development of culture and language, we were created to be in community, to build relationships with one another so that we wouldn't just merely survive in this world, but we would thrive in it.
Yeah.
And, to me, community is how we show each other the love that God has filled us with to be to other people, so that we can overcome the challenges that we're ultimately going to face in a fallen world. And the only way to overcome those challenges is through the original design of how we were made as people, which was to be filled by God's love and to love others and to build relationship, and those relationships turn into community.
Yeah, I love the point that you made around the way that we give in that. And I guess the wonderful thing is that we get to receive that from other fractal expressions of God.
Yep, agreed. Because, when the focus is being loved and not wanting to be loved, we can show up in so much more of a genuine way in the relationships that we're building, that ultimately the things that we are putting out into the world, the Bible says in Isaiah that the words of our mouth will not return void, but accomplish that which we set them to do. So if we're speaking love and peace and generosity and gratitude and all of those things, those are going to go out into the world, and it's going to return back in blessing and favor through the relationships that we've built.
Well, thank you for joining us, Pastor Jonathan. Yes.
My pleasure. My
Set the
pleasure.
conversation on fire. And I think, the really interesting point, and I want to end with this, tying it to what the work that Nathan's doing and the work that you're all doing. But you've just said that we're created for community. And if we're looking at this in terms of spiritual warfare, the enemy isolates. The enemy doesn't want us in community, which is why when you look on the savannah, like the pack of hyenas, they'll isolate one from the group. We're weaker, we're more vulnerable when we're isolated from communities. That's when the enemy is at its strongest, when we're disconnected from the community. So Nathan, like the work that you do with eradicating loneliness, one conversation at a time, where you're inviting people to reconnect to their community. It's important work, my friend. Really important work. We're going to go around one by one, just a very quick final wrap up. Thank you so much for being on the call today. Abbie, is there anything that you want to put front and center before we go?
It's just to say that obviously we were talking earlier about the energy and how the energy obviously travels and is traveling throughout this community. And this just last few minutes here was just that, again, prime example of that. So, which is amazing.
I love you guys. I absolutely love you guys. Nathan, anything from yourself, brother?
Yeah, I would just tell anybody listening, watching, we see you, we hear you, we love you.
Chris?
This is the best morning in forever. Thank you all so very much. Like, I am like giddy. So I'm doing something very uncomfortable today. So this is the greatest start of my day. And I appreciate you all being my community. And I've missed you very much. Jonathan, darling, I love you.
Can you come back and let us know how you got on? We'd love to know how your day's gone.
Yeah.
We'd love to know whether it set you up for success or...
Absolutely. Well, it's uncomfortable for me, but not probably for everyone else. So
okay, good. Well, wholehearted. That's what you do best. Mr. Jonathan Darling?
Yeah, I would just say love people so much they think you're weird.
Yeah, right. Which is what Abbie was saying that she was doing in the gym earlier. Yeah. Yeah, love you, brother. Jason, Mr. Jason Johnson.
Yeah, love is that all-binding energy that passes through us. And that's what builds community and connection.
Yeah, man, isn't it crazy that with this like 6 little cubes on a screen and we're saying that we love each other? Like, that's something deeper, isn't it? It's more than just, hey, how can we learn how to get more out of life? Is actually how can we give, get, serve, connect, be there. And I know that any of us could pick up the phone to any of each other and would be there in a heartbeat, which is really powerful. So it's an honor and privilege for me to lead this community along with Abbie. But thank you for being present. Thank you for making it what it is. Thank you for being true to who you are, which is better than yesterday. And guys, I appreciate you. I'm going to push stop on the record if you do want to hang out for a few minutes after, just to debrief. Debrief, that's a formal word. Just to go nicely. Anyway, if you're listening to the podcast, thank you for being here. Make sure that you're part of the Facebook community if you want to come and join the call next month. Otherwise, thank you for being here. Got anything wise to say, Abbie, to say bye with?
Love you.
Love you. Bye.